Neville Chamberlain must be up there now, must be down there now, thinking at last a bigger fucking pussy than I was.
I think it's a bit harsh to say that Neville Chamberlain is in hell and Winston Churchill presumably then is in heaven, because he's the greatest Brit of all time, of course, as we know.
Are we still America's allies now that America is openly using Kremlin propaganda?
Yes, we are. We are still America's... We're not an ally. We're a proxy state. We're a proxy state that's going rogue at the moment, which is interesting. But are we American allies? We have American military bases in the UK. All of our tech sector, everything that you use, all of your phones, the internet services, all of the apps, they're all built by American companies, right? Look, China doesn't do this, right? China has its own infrastructure. And when any Chinese infrastructure, tech infrastructure, comes into the US, they freak the fuck out because they know what that means in terms of a threat to US security. What does the UK do? Just, what, we're going to have our own technology? No, we're just going to get it all from the US, obviously. And this is the thing about sort of globalization in terms of, particularly if you're a small country, but just generally, how can the UK not be an ally of the US in this situation?
Trump is clearly one of the worst negotiators in geopolitical history. The first time ever an American president has criticised an ally for not surrendering to an invading army. You fucking pussy hole.
I've got a complaint about Ukraine, actually. Why didn't Zelensky lower the conscription age to 18? Like, the Biden administration told him he should. Why hasn't he sent more 18-year-olds to go and die in this pointless war? That's, does he really want to win? I mean, that's what the Americans, when the Americans were good, when the good people were in power, and they were 100% behind Ukraine and behind winning this war, defeating Russia somehow, they wanted the conscription age to be lowered. I imagine Starmer was almost certainly behind as well. Why wouldn't he be? But Zelensky refused to do it. So is he really? Maybe he's a Putin propagandist.
Trump claiming that Ukraine started the war is like Roosevelt saying, well, what the fuck were those ships doing in Pearl Harbor in the first place?
That's interesting. So Pearl Harbor obviously was not the start of Second World War. It was the start of the US engagement in it, which is very different from his criticism earlier about Neville Chamberlain and what was happening in Europe. Because even though the Germans had invaded the whole of Europe by the point of Pearl Harbor, the Americans hadn't got involved, which is interesting, isn't it? You couldn't even come to the conclusion that maybe the US only really got involved, particularly in the European fight, when it seemed like Russia might actually win and take Berlin. And then they were like, well, the Nazis are bad, but who gives a shit? But we definitely don't want the Russians controlling Europe. Probably best we get involved. Like, there's a lot more going on. This is the thing. There's a very simple narrative about the Second World War that Hitler was bad and everyone else was good, and we all clubbed together and clubbed him to death. But it's like, no, it was a lot more. There was a lot more going on, particularly before the war, right? That led up to it. It wasn't. This is the thing. It's like in communism, the mass deaths that took place in China and Russia. It's like, well, that's just a direct result of communism. Yeah, you read Marx, you have a revolution, you kill everyone, right? That's just the line. That's just the direction of travel. But Nazi Germany, that was an aberration. Like that, that just came out of nowhere. Like, it definitely wasn't a failure of communist revolutions across Europe and in reaction to that. No. Definitely had nothing to do with capitalism either. No, absolutely not. Definitely wasn't to do with the failure of the League of Nations and the Weimar Republic and the setup of German democracy after the war. No, it was just a weird, freaky thing. So Hitler was a freaky guy and he somehow took power and then we all had to stop him. He just came out of the blue. It's like, no, the Second World War was a complete failure of the international community. It was a complete failure of the European powers. And that's exactly the same in Ukraine. Now, did Ukraine start the war? No. Did Russia start the war? No. Yeah, the war, no one starts the war. The war is going, it's always there. It's always bubbling. Yeah, it's the same with Israel and Palestine. I mean, it's a little bit different because Britain controlled the entire area and then created the nation of Israel. So you could probably say Britain started that one. But I mean, generally, you've got historical problems going all the way back, and you're trying to manage these all the time, and you let them get out of control. And it's decision makers on both sides going down the wrong track. And certainly the Russians have to blame. But to say that Europe and NATO and Ukraine are just absolutely innocent in what's going on, it's just ridiculous, right? It's a failure. It's a failure that we were all a part of. And that's why the narrative with Second World War is so fucking annoying. Because it's like, they're the bad guys. They started the war. The Nazis, just fucking dicks. And we just had to come in. It's like, no, we created the conditions under which that happened. And we created the conditions, we're part of it at least, right? Britain owned, half the world. It's like to say that there was no one else was involved. It's just these fucking dicks. Just Putin is just a fucking nutcase. And that's your whole analysis. Labour good, Tories bad. Ukraine good, Russia bad.
The art of the deal, eh? The great negotiator showed his hand after 2 seconds, showed the world that he'd been entirely captured by Kremlin talking points. Instead of at least pretending to be neutral so that he could get his Nobel Peace Prize, he immediately showed that he was openly hostile to one of the parties, and not the invader, the invaded.
18-year-olds, get them down there, get them on the front line. I want more 18-year-old corpses. Because I want Ukraine to win. That's right. That's the reason.
And you can tell that Trump doesn't actually think Zelensky is a dictator because his nose isn't nestled up Zelensky's anus.
Pie is good.
Whilst giving him a reach around like he does with real actual dictators.
Everybody says it. I give the best reach around.
The UK didn't have a general election for 10 years because of World War II. That doesn't make Winston Churchill a dictator. Zelensky has not banned opposition parties, just the ones openly pro-Russian. Just like we banned the fascist party when Hitler was bombing the shit out of us on a nightly basis. Zelensky has not banned independent media, just pro-Russian propaganda. And NATO expansionism is not the reason we have this war.
Jonathan Pye's nose. Zelensky's asshole.
NATO expansion on Russia's borders stopped in 2004. So what? Russia was so annoyed that they waited 10 years to invade Crimea and then a quick 8-year breather and then on to Ukraine. Utter bollocks.
Utter bollocks. So what is the reason, Pye? What's really going on? Is it that Putin's mad? Is that the whole thing?
And now let's see what the UK's favourite fag-smoking everyman MAGA flag shagger Nigel Farage has to say on the matter. Oh no, he's not available for comment because he's on a plane flying off to a Trump cheerleading conference in Washington to share the stage with Liz Truss, Steve Bannon and Elon Musk, who's holding a chainsaw.
Look, these negotiations, they may break down. Yeah, we might not, Russia and even Trump might not see eye to eye. We might get right back to the fighting, and then, hopefully, with, normality resumed, we can really push to get those 18-year-olds on the front line and get some fucking 18-year-olds killed. And then, what? Then that's, I suppose, Stalin will be happy, Jonathan Pye be happy. And then what? There's another war for 5 years. And then Russia's defeated, presumably. They go all the way to Moscow, and they go into the Kremlin, and Putin's there, and he's like, "I'm gonna fire the nukes." I won't do it. Honestly, you take me away. I mean, what's defeat look like? Is it more that the Russians just get bored? They just get bored of having a war directly on their border. It's not like Iraq where they can just leave, right? They leave, and what happens is you have a hostile country right on the border, with many ethnic Russians living within that place who were already being attacked before the war. I don't know how they're going to be treated afterwards. So then you're going to have, some sort of North Korean DMZ type situation between Ukraine and Russia forever? Is that the solution that we want? That's what we're gunning for? Just so that Ukraine can hold on to absolutely all of its territory, even the parts that it's been bombing for years.
Oh, no, we've got him on the line. Over to you, Nigel. Well, I think you find, if you know your history, we did have elections during the Second World War. So, yes, Nigel, you're quite right. But we waited until Hitler had blown his fucking brains out, you disingenuous, cowardly, boot-licking, Trump line-towing, cock-sucking coward.
God, he's upset. He's really upset about this dictator thing. You know, when your nose is up someone, you don't want people taking if your nose is up someone's arse, the person, this guy, in his case Zelensky, but whoever it is, you don't want them being called names. Because what does that make you down here? Yeah? It's going to reflect badly on you, isn't it?
Any other comments, Nigel Farage? Well, I agree with Donald Trump. Ukraine must have elections as soon as possible. Very well. And let me ask you this, Nigel Farage, you cowardly, cock-sucking cocksucker. How on earth is Ukraine supposed to have an election with 6 million of its people displaced?
Postal votes? Let's be optimistic here.
Russian drones attacking them every single day, with 3.5 million Ukrainians living under an illegal Russian occupation. Hello? Hello, cocksucker? No, he's gone. Whatever you think of Nigel Farage, you may even have voted for him, but trust me when I tell you, he is an apologist for appeasement, an apologist for brutal dictators.
When did, people like Jonathan Pye is so hawkish. When did the sort of centre left liberals, they're just so, they sound like Republicans of the early noughties.
And he is a cowardly, bootlicking, opportunist shit stain on humanity. However, nothing compared to that master negotiator Donald Trump, an idiotic, ignorant leader.
That cocksucking fuckface Nigel Farage, but he's nothing compared to that absolute piece of shit, disgusting, fanny fuck, bitch-faced. I was going to say the N-word there. But I didn't. That's the main thing.
Maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where the remaining Western allies see that Trump is an ally of no one. Maybe Trump has miscalculated, thinking that everyone was just going to bend the knee. Maybe the world will see that America in its present form is not to be trusted by anyone.
Wow. Yeah, America's not to be trusted. Yeah, that's so true. But it's not just to do with Trump, is it? It's just generally, it's problems with having nations in general, and having powerful nations particularly, and then having to form alliances with those, which are not really alliances because the power imbalance is so massive that you're basically a proxy state. You're either a proxy state for Russia or you're a proxy state for the US or possibly China. And sort of just coming to terms with that, America isn't our friend. It uses Europe, it uses the UK. A lot of money moves out of the UK every day because everything that we use is US owned, US companies. Our military is completely dictated, completely relies on US power. It's this is bad.
And anyone who does trust Trump, people like Nigel Farage, for example, a bootlicking, cowardly cocksucker.
I don't know. Is this all written, or does he ad-lib some of it?
Who, instead of doing any work for his constituents, is right now wanking for coins on a stage in Washington, having a big fat public MAGA wank for dollar, a fucking shit stain of a man.
So there you have it. Cocksucking. I don't know why cocksucking is an insult. But anyway, cocksucking, piece of shit, arse wipe, its nose up someone's arse, piece of shit, Jonathan Pye. Angry man. And anger is an energy. I'm just exhausted.